I was not paid to make this video, nor was I paid to promote any products, but I would like to thank Phil Mann and the crew at Inland Sea Kitesite for loaning me their demo gear. This is the 200 high aspect ratio wing from Lift, and we're going to compare this wing to three very similar wings. I think you can relate to that excited feeling of seeing a package arrive on your doorstep, particularly when it's a new foil. I was excited to see this one. This is Lift's new high aspect ratio front wing series that consists of the 200 front high aspect ratio wing and the Surfwing 25 back. These are nice wing covers. There's one integrated cover for the front and rear wing. It's a thick cover with nice zippers. Unfortunately, due to the shape of this wing with the fuselage piece sticking out of it, it's not that great for packing, and it sticks out quite a bit, requiring a bigger box than I've seen from other manufacturers. The second cover here is for the mast. I like the piece at the bottom of the cover that wraps around the base plate and protects the base plate. The base plate and mast are one single piece. The first step in assembly is to attach the front wing to the mast with two hex screws. It's a tight fit between the carbon fiber mast and the carbon fiber front wing. I tighten both screws fairly tight. We'll come back to this step in a moment. This is the first time that I've seen the fuselage integrated into the front wing. Similarly, it's the first time I've seen a fuselage integrated into the rear wing, and those two pieces come together and are held by two screws. This is the Surfwing 25 back. It is a relatively small rear wing. I found it difficult to tighten these screws down. I applied a force to the front wing, and I found that I could even tighten the screw more. As I alternated between applying force to the front wing and the rear wing, I always found I could tighten the mast screw a little bit more. I read online that some people use a mallet to help with the pounding, and that worked well. I was able to tighten it down even more. This was a simple foil to set up with only 4 hex screws to get it all together. You can call me crazy, I'd prefer passionate, but I have to agree that my foiling days are probably numbered. This is a light foil. In fact, it's the lightest foil I've ever held in my hands. It's 6.6 pounds or 3 kilograms, and it's very nice for carrying around. The Lift 200 high aspect ratio wing is 200 square inches in area, which is 1,290 square centimeters. It's not the largest high aspect wing from Lift. Lift also has a 250 square inch area foil. It has the same 37 inch or 94 centimeter wingspan, so it has a lower aspect ratio. But I was interested in this wing because it has a high aspect ratio of 6.8. The Lift 250 high aspect is more of a mid aspect ratio wing at 5.5. At 34 centimeters wingspan, the Surfwing 25 is a relatively small rear wing. In the past few weeks, I've tried a lot of similar wings from other manufacturers, and this wing fits right in that class of high aspect ratio wings in the 1250 to 1400 square centimeter horizontal area. This setup from Lift is the lightest and had the shortest distance from the leading edge of the front wing to the trailing edge of the rear wing than any of the other 3 setups. We will compare these 4 foils across these 7 attributes to see what we can learn. The Lift 200 high aspect is a lightweight wing. In my experience, I found it higher frequency, lower amplitude pumping to be the most efficient way to pump these high aspect wings, and the Lift 200 high aspect was not any different. I've tried using more of the mast amplitude and a longer glide between each pump, but I find that makes me tired sooner. With a short fuselage and a small rear wing, it is easier to pitch the board up and down. The flip side is that you have to be more precise with your pumping, and when the lactic acid starts to build up in your legs, it's hard to be precise. In a prior video, we compared the Hydrofoil P180 and the Axis 910 in flat water pumping. These two foils were paired with similar fuselage lengths and similar high aspect rear wings at about 460 millimeters. These foils had a very similar pumping cadence and amplitude, meaning I'm using about the same amount of mast each pump, and how often I pump is similar. When I compared the Lift 200 high aspect to the Hydrofoil P180, I found the Lift's shorter fuse and smaller rear wing much easier to pitch. But the flip side is that when you get tired, as I said before, it's harder to be precise. A longer fuse is more forgiving when trying to efficiently pump. In comparing the foil's carving ability, we just rolled the board to toe and heel edge and compared how they carved. The Lift 200 high aspect carved nicely, as did all four of these wings. The Axis 910 has the smallest wingspan of 91 centimeters, and the P180 had the largest at 106.5 centimeters. These are high wingspan wings, yet they all carved well and carved similarly. Foiling unlocks surfing on a lake without a large or expensive boat. I mostly ride behind my Yamaha Wave Runner, and it weighs 700 pounds or 321 kilos. Foiling lets me surf multiple wakes back, and I enjoy that, but the front wing needs to provide enough lift. One of the tests I like to perform is whether a wing can surf without pumping. Pumping takes time to learn, so being able to surf without pumping is a good test for any wing. While none of these wings could let me do it, I felt like the Axis 910 and the Lift 200 high aspect felt easiest to surf. The devil's in the details here. Each of these wings likely have different foil cross-sections, different foil thicknesses and curvature called camber, which changes the lift and drag of each wing at each angle of attack, so it's difficult to really compare based on wing geometry alone. From these 4 different data points from 4 different wings, I can say that at my weight of 190 pounds or 86 kilos, I've found that a high aspect wing with at least 1,700 square centimeters of area is needed for me to get enough push off that second wake of my jet ski without pumping. Wake transfers test the foil's ability to pump while carving and the foil's ability to be pumped for a sustained period. I found that the Hydrofoil P180, the Axis 910, and the Hydrofoil NL190 were all easy to wake transfer. But I did find the NL190 the easiest. Perhaps it's due to its anhedral shape that allows the wing to lift more while carving, or due to these winglets that help hold the carve. I found the Lift 200 high aspect to feel quite a bit different than the other foils. Perhaps it was the shorter fuse and smaller rear wing that just made it pitch easier, or the smaller rear wing, which I feel always makes it harder to accelerate. I skateboarded many years ago, and riding the Lift 200 high aspect reminded me of being on a skateboard. Fast, fluid, effortless are all words that come to mind. Perhaps it's because the foil's so light. However, I do find that small rear wings might not be able to generate enough heaving force to accelerate as fast as the other foils do. If I can't accelerate, I need to pump for a longer time, and if I have to pump for a longer time, I get tired and can't pump anymore. The glide of the wing matters. If a wing has lower drag, it will glide further. and if you're holding a kite or winging, the drag of the wing is the primary force that you feel in your arms. While this test is difficult to perform while being launched from a rope, as the speed at the time of release is different, I could feel the difference in glide of the different wings. It felt like the GoFoil P180 could glide further than the Axis 910. I shared that in a previous video. It also felt like the Lift 200 high aspect could glide further than the P180. While I couldn't measure this to be sure, I could try a couple of different attempts to see if the results repeated, and they did. Again, it's really hard to know as the speed at the time of release is not known. The foil's acceleration matters too. Moving to wakes closer to the boat or jet ski without the vessel slowing down requires you accelerate your pump. Also, one of the most fun things to do on the lake is to ride wakes from other boats and wake transfer from one boat wake to another. To do this, you need to speed up and slow down. I have found that a longer fuselage lets you be a little bit lazier when pumping. It's more forgiving. I've also found that a larger rear wing helps generate a heaving force that helps you to accelerate, and this is magnified with a longer fuselage. You can also help yourself by using a high aspect rear wing, as these wings, just like the front wings, generate a lot more useful force per area than lower aspect wings. The Lift 200 high aspect has a relatively short fuselage and a relatively small rear wing. This made it harder to accelerate as compared to other foils. I have never been fond of high-speed foiling on the lake behind the boat, but higher speeds are key to efficient winging. As the wing speeds up, I find that you need to pitch the nose down to reduce the lift force on the foil. The speed is just too high and there's too much lift. I found the Lift 200 high aspect tougher to ride at high speeds than the NL190 from GoFoil. The lift is quite pitch sensitive, which made it harder to ride at high speeds. But I found the NL190 really locked in at high speeds and was easy to ride. Although these four foils had very similar areas and were all high aspect ratio, they did feel a little bit different. I enjoyed the skateboard-like feeling of the Lift 200. It's very light at 3 kilograms and very fluid and easy to pump and pitch. I liked the glide of this foil. Glide matters. The more glide you can extract from each pump, the less pumps you have to do, and the longer you can pump for. The Lift 200 high aspect couldn't surf the second wake of my jet ski without pumping, but it did surprisingly well, and I'm not totally sure why. Its area and aspect ratio was not the highest of the four foils I compared, but it was a thin foil, so perhaps that helped. I found the Lift 200 HA hard to accelerate. I believe it's due to the small rear wing, and I was just not able to generate enough heaving force to accelerate it as fast as the other foils. This wing was very similar to the P180 and the NL190 from GoFoil, and the Axis 910. I enjoyed it. I liked the Lift 200 high aspect, but 30% or so more area while keeping that wing aspect ratio at or above 6.5 would really make this wing a great fit for me. If you're riding large wakes on the lake or are lighter in weight, this is a great wing for you, and I can certainly recommend it for the lake.